Ann Droid is a British comedy series created and written by Diane Morgan. The six-episode sitcom premiered on BBC One on 17 July 2026. The series follows Sue, a widow who is given an Ann Droid ElderCare Robot by her son for assistance and companionship. The good. Diane Morgan. If you are familiar with Philomena Kang, you'll know how Morgan can be absurdly hilarious with just a look. In Ann Droid, she delivers her trademark deadpan humor as Linda, the pre-loved and outdated care robot, an Ann Droid Z58-100 basic care model. Morgan is completely committed to the role, with her rigid movements, vacant expression, and inappropriate observations delivered in a monotone at peak comedy gold. Linda's attempts to understand human behavior through machine logic provide some of the show's funniest interactions. Balancing out the machine logic is Sue Johnston as Sue Bevan, who gives the show its soul through her vulnerability, warmth, and stubborn dignity. She's an elderly woman navigating the grief of losing her husband while fiercely determined not to become somebody else's responsibility. Alongside Morgan, the two's odd couple relationship becomes considerably more touching than it has any right to be. The supporting cast is equally brilliant, frequently stealing scenes with brilliant moments that catch you completely unaware. A delivery driver with a PhD in Chaucer, a best friend armed with blunt honesty, and a son with a weak spine and a controlling spouse. Ann Droid is a quirky sitcom whose sci-fi premise sometimes unfolds like an episode of Black Mirror, ultimately delivering a story about aging, bereavement, soul isolation, and the economics of elder care without becoming preachy about technology. The show also introduces a timely discourse around technology. In a world where people are becoming increasingly reliant on AI and machines, it asks some crucial questions on whether it's better to have machine companionship over isolation and loneliness, but fundamentally appreciating this fragile thing called life and the memories we make along the way. The bad. The show shifts dramatically between comedy and poignant, melancholic reflections on life and death, sometimes while it's still laughing, making a jarring change. There's also a somewhat formulaic and repetitive structure that unfolds as robot misunderstands a basic human concept and causes a public scene. While it's funny, it can start to feel repetitive. The subplot involving Sue's son, his midlife crisis, and complicated marital situation also feels like narrative filler belonging to another sitcom altogether. The ugly. Ann Droid misses an opportunity to really push the implications of robot caregivers being cheaper than human labor, or of people becoming overly dependent on AI and machines. Unlike Black Mirror, Ann Droid isn't really trying to delve into the darker side of technology. Instead, it uses technology as a mirror for human behavior, presenting us with a flawed and imperfect artificial intelligence and allowing its mistakes to expose the flaws of humans that interact with it. Watching this show lands differently for me because culturally, our society is communal and we look after our elderly in extended family units. So it's hard to reconcile how one could grow old all alone. If anything, the challenge one would have is wanting people to stop fussing over them. Final thoughts. Ann Droid is a heartfelt, funny, and surprisingly poignant reflection on solitude and artificial companionship. Watch it for Diane Morgan's absurdity and Sue Johnston's humanity. Have you watched this sitcom or any comedy by Diane Morgan?